everybody, the Lawn Gnome is here, and there goes my hero. Watch him as he goes.
Yeah, Hollywood, you know I love you more than one I should. Yeah, Hollywood, well kiss me good. Yeah, Hollywood, you know I love you more than one.
So I've got a music review for you guys today. We're going to talk about two bands that I have actually had in my CD collection for quite a number of years, pretty much when I really started discovering what music was all about. I have to say that when it comes to me, being born in the early 1980s and basically coming of age in the early 1990s, I'm really glad to know that I actually was around to appreciate one of the best times of music. Popular music of the time was very edgy, it had a lot of substance to it, it definitely made you feel very interesting emotions. Bands like Pearl Jam, Green Day, Nirvana, Smashing Pumpkins, just to name a few, it really was one of the best times for music, as far as I'm concerned. And even though that whole era has changed so much, and there's so many different acts that are now considered popular music, I'm glad to know that these bands that I grew up with are still around today, and giving us new and improved works with every single album. So we're going to start with the newest album of Live, called The Turn. I personally had no idea that this band was coming out with a new album. I mean, I knew that their lead singer, Ed Kowalczyk, had actually left the band to pursue other areas of music and solo projects, but I was very impressed to see that they still managed to do that. Now, a lot of people say that when a band loses their lead singer or a crucial piece of the band, like a guitarist or something like that, the band is never the same. But I have to say that Chris Shin, their new lead singer, sounds very similar to Ed Kowalczyk. Not exactly like him. I don't think that he really has the lower tempos in his vocals that Ed did, but he definitely has the high pitches that Ed had. But it's a very good album. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's definitely got some very good songs on it. I mean, some of the best songs on the album are definitely Don't Run to Wait, Natural Born Killers, We Open the Door. I think that probably one of the most original songs in the album is By Design, because most of the album sounds like older sounds of Live. I mean, unfortunately, nothing will ever beat Throwing Copper as far as I'm concerned. By Design sounds very progressive. It kind of sounds like a Dream Theater song to me, so I definitely appreciate the originality and how it stands out. Again, it's nothing revolutionary. It's a good live album, and if you want to really listen to a good live album, there really haven't been some that sound like the older days of Live, and this one definitely reminds you of that, while it's not exactly like it. So I highly recommend, as a Live fan, to give it a listen, just to see that even though one of the members of the band is gone, it still can sound like a great live album. Now, the next album that I want to go over is the new album of Foo Fighters, which is called Sonic Highways. I mean, this album cover just says it all. I think it's beautiful, but this is an album that a lot of people have been trashing. They don't like it. They say it doesn't sound like Foo Fighters, it's not what Foo Fighters used to be, they sold out. But yeah, I know that a lot of people say that you shouldn't base it on anything that's linked to it, because Sonic Highways had an HBO special in which 8 episodes were featured, one for each of the tracks on the album, because there's only 8 tracks. It's a small album, but it was kind of an appreciative way to remind you of the old days of albums and 8-track tapes, so 8 tracks on a CD. But the HBO special really showed us how the Foo Fighters were celebrating their 20th anniversary, and how each song was going to be influential and different based on a specific area of music that was basically emerging in a specific location in the United States. It was really all about the appreciation for American music. There was an episode where they went to Chicago and they talked about blues. There was an episode where they went to Seattle and they talked about the grunge era. There was an episode where they went to Nashville and they talked about the country music scene, and that was what I really loved about this album. They also got so many influential people to participate in putting their talents onto these tracks. I mean, you had Rick Nielsen, the lead guitarist of Cheap Trick. You had Joe Walsh. You also had some of the current people out there. You had Benjamin Gibbard from Death Cab for Cutie. You had the Zac Brown Band. You really had a great culmination of really talented musicians that were influenced by these exact locations, and they also recorded each of these separate tracks in the states that they went to, in these recording studios that were very influential in music. They also, in their HBO special, interviewed a lot of these people. They interviewed Dolly Parton, Slash from Guns N' Roses, Rick Rubin. They really wanted to show their appreciation for American music and how influential it was. And of course, the last episode was fantastic because it culminated in the greatest city in America, they called it, which is my hometown, New York City. New York City really wasn't any specific musical influence, but apparently New York was the place where musicians wanted to go to think and become original and do something that was never done before. It's basically where people went to really try and make something of themselves, because that's the theme of New York. If you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. And while each and every one of these tracks uses the element of music from where they were going to get their influence, New York's song, which is called I Am a River, really is not like those. It's a Foo Fighters song, but it's a very different, very original, very epic sounding Foo Fighters song. And a lot of people who, while they have trashed the album, really love that song. But I love this album entirely. I appreciate the concept. I appreciate what the Foo Fighters were trying to accomplish. I appreciate all of the time and the effort and all the people that joined to make this really special record in music. And for a 20th anniversary of the Foo Fighters, I have to admit, as somebody who's been a fan since the very beginning and has been a fan of Dave Grohl since the Nirvana days, it's really awesome to know that he and his band did this for themselves and truthfully for their fans as well. And Sonic Highways, guys, you just have to listen to this, and you gotta see the HBO special too. I think that it will give you more of an understanding of what the Foo Fighters were trying to accomplish, but I love it. I think it may, in fact, be the best album of the year. So that's 2 albums for you guys. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Actions speak louder than words.
Hey,